Every day I receive a lot of questions about the engagement ring via YouTube comments or just emails or messages, anything out there. And lots of the questions quite repetitive. People asking about the engagement rings in general, about the metals, about the stones, about the styles, and so forth and so on. So what I decided to put all of these questions together, round up them into 100 questions, and record a very long video where I'm covering pretty much everything related to the basics of the engagement ring. I'm gonna have a very detailed timeline in the description, so you can click on the question that you're most interested in. You don't have to watch this video all together, you're just gonna go to the question. Also, if you're gonna go to the shorts on YouTube, you can see all of those questions separated, so you can do that. And the other thing you can do, you can go to our website, to the FAQ section, and you'll find all of this shorts video out there. This entire FAQ questionnaire is going to be broken down into the sections. General questions, questions about the styles, questions about the gemstones, questions about the diamond as well separately, questions about the metals, and just the creation process in general. So without any further ado, let's get started. General information about engagement rings. What is the difference between the engagement ring and the wedding band? Engagement ring is typically given during the proposal. It's symbolizing the promise to get married in the future. Engagement ring usually features some sort of center stone, whether it's a diamond, typically it's a diamond, or it's any other gemstone or the lapstone, doesn't really matter. And the wedding band is given during the wedding ceremony. The wedding band symbolizes the actual commitment of the lifetime. Both rings eventually worn together. Lots of the times they perfectly matching each other. And lots of the time we design both of them together. What is the history behind the engagement ring? Engagement rings wasn't even called back then that way, but they served the same function. Back in ancient Roman and in ancient Greece, people would exchange the rings made out of copper or even gold or the bones or anything like that. They believed that the vein that goes from the fingers go to the heart directly, and that would symbolize the love and commitment. The first engagement ring made with a diamond was given in 1477 by Archduke Maximilian in Austria to the Mary of Burgundy, his future wife, and that's the first recorded diamond engagement ring. They become popular in 1940s, 1930s because of the De Beers advertising. They obviously wanted to sell more diamonds, and they started the campaign called "A Diamond is Forever." That's the one with the Marilyn Monroe and everything like that. Why are engagement ring traditionally given? Engagement ring traditionally given as the symbol of love, of commitment, of seriousness of the relationship. And if you're gonna go look back into the history, during the weddings, during the creation of the new family, people would generally exchange very valuable things, not necessarily engagement ring, other types of gold if they had it, or the livestock or anything else. And the fact that they start calling them the engagement ring just recently, like 100 years ago, doesn't mean that it's a new trend. People were exchanging jewelry and the rings for thousands of years. What does the engagement ring symbolize? A very important thing. The engagement ring symbolizes the love, the commitment, the very strong intention to get married into the future. In today's culture, as soon as the engagement ring given, usually within the year, you're going to be married. So that symbolizes your commitment, your readiness to put the actual effort, the actual money into the future and the creation of the family. And instead of saying a million words, you're basically proving your action with another action. So that's what it symbolizes. How have engagement rings evolved over time? Dramatically. In ancient times, ancient Roman, ancient Egypt, and so forth, people would exchange wedding bands or engagement rings made out of iron, out of copper, out of gold sometimes, and the silver. The Cleopatra's ring, for example, were made out of silver because it's a much more rare metal in Egypt specifically. They were changed dramatically during the different eras too. For example, during the Renaissance, they were changed quite a lot, and we separate the very specifically the Victoria era, the Edwardian era. The Art Deco area specifically, it's all completely different designs as well. Now we got to the sections of types and styles of the engagement ring. So let's get started. What are the different styles of the engagement ring? Well, there's a lot of them. There's a solitaire engagement rings, there's the halo, there's the three stones, there's the vintage engagement ring, there's the modern designs and so forth. Very quickly going through all of them. Solitaire engagement ring, very simple design with a center stone. The halo engagement ring, that's the one that's surrounded by the small stones around the center stone. Very complicated to make and to make right. Three stone engagement ring symbolize the past, present, and the future. Feature the three stones, obviously. Vintage engagement ring, not necessarily vintage, usually vintage inspired engagement ring by Edwardian or Victorian or Art Deco era. Modern design, that's the one that you see right now, that's usually made with the gemstone with the simple lines. And of course there's lots of subcategories as well. And now let's go through all of the styles a little bit into details. What are solitaire engagement rings? Solitaire engagement ring always feature one single stone, usually oval or round stone. 10-20 years ago it was almost 90% of the market, not really at the moment because lots of people really has it. The main idea of the solitaire engagement ring is to show off the center stone. The band itself, do not take any attention to it. It's very simple, very plain, no additional elements on it, nothing else. The whole idea of the solitaire engagement ring is to show the beauty of the center stone. So you have to be very careful with your choice of the center stone. What are halo engagement ring? Halo engagement rings surrounded with the halo. So we have a center stone and it's surrounded with the smaller millstones all around it. There is also an option to have the hidden halo where small stones goes around the gallery, but typically it goes around the center stone. Typically for two reasons. First of all, to visually make the center stone larger. It does look larger when you have the halo around it. And the second goal is to send as much light as possible to the center stone. Sometimes it can be the design element. For example, your center stone is the white transparent stone and your halo is made out of yellow stone. In this case, it's a design choice overall. What are three stone engagement ring? Three stone engagement ring feature three stone and they represent past, present, and the future. Typically, the center stone is the biggest in this case. There is no limitation about the sizes of the stone or the shapes of the stone or even the color. You can combine any color. For example, quite often we do the emerald or sapphire for the center stone and the diamonds for the side stone, so they can send the sparks to this center colorful gemstone. What are vintage style engagement rings? Vintage style engagement rings inspired by the certain era but made in the modern days. For example, you're really into the Victorian era or Edwardian era or Art Deco, for example, but when you're looking at the actual ring from that era, you not necessarily like the craftsmanship or the quality of the engagement ring itself, or the quality of the gemstone. So again, the vintage style engagement ring, that means that the ring was inspired by very specific period in the past and modernized with today's technology and the styles and so forth. What are contemporary engagement rings? Contemporary engagement rings feature modern features and innovations. They are anything but classics, so they not necessarily symmetrical, they not necessarily using the typical gemstone or the diamond shapes. They everything but normal, standard. So you're basically expressing yourself as much as you possibly can in those engagement ring, and that's the one that we especially love. What is an Art Deco engagement ring? Art Deco engagement ring obviously were made during an Art Deco era, that's the roaring 20s and 30s. They have a very straightforward lines, like streamlined designs, very bold designs overall as well. Those always look very powerful. It's still very popular to those days. Overall, Art Deco engagement ring typically use the emerald cuts or the trillion cuts, anything but round designs pretty much. Engagement ring itself usually made out of platinum or the white gold. Art Deco engagement ring typically on the expensive side because of the materials, because of the center stones and so on. And they also have to be made right in order to look right. What is a minimalistic engagement ring? Well, minimalistic engagement ring is minimalistic engagement ring. Nothing else pretty much besides of the pretty thin band shank and the center stone itself, but you have to be very careful. In 2010s or so, lots of people wanted to get those minimalistic engagement ring, and guess what? They did not last more than 5 or 7 years. The bands itself were worn out very quickly, just falling apart. People were losing the center stones because of those tiny little prongs, and so forth and so on. What are cathedral engagement ring? Cathedral engagement ring feature arches of metal that rise above the band itself to support the center stone. So they basically remind the arches of the cathedral itself. This design elevates the stone, so it visually makes it larger. It also allowed more light to go to the stone. The downside can be that this design is typically not very simple, so there's a lot of things going on into the gallery itself. But again, usually someone who chooses the cathedral engagement rings, they really want this arches in their gallery. What is the tension setting in the engagement ring? Tension setting in the engagement ring, that's when the stone itself holds by the band itself, by the shank of the engagement ring. There is no additional prongs, nothing like that. It just creates visually the effect of the center stone floating overall. What is the cluster setting in the engagement ring? The cluster setting engagement ring features multiple stones in the gallery itself. Not 3, not 4, sometimes 5, 7, and so on. The idea is there is just to be playful. Lots of the time, and I love it a lot when people using the different colors of the gemstone or different shades of the gemstone. For example, they go from the very deep blue into the very light blue in the engagement ring overall. Very beautiful design. Lots of vintage pieces are made within this style. Again, no limitation over here. Just main idea is that there's just a cluster of stones that look together very beautifully. Sometimes just trying to make this illusion of the one single stone, and that was actually how it was created. It was created, as far as I remember, during the Depression, when people could not afford one single stone, but they still wanted to have a nice engagement ring, so they just put a bunch of little stones together. Gemstones and diamonds. What gemstones are commonly used in the engagement ring? And usually people want to find out which one is durable enough for the engagement ring. Typically we use diamonds, sapphires, rubies, emeralds. Sapphires you can find in any color pretty much out there. They can be pink, green, blue, anything. Depending on the budget you have for the engagement ring, you can find a variety of options out there. Also, we can use lapstones, for example, the moissanite and the lap diamonds and others. There's plenty of alternative options as well, starting from the opals, but there's going to be some consideration about durability. There's going to be agate, there's going to be multiple options out there as well. What is the significance of the diamond in the engagement ring? Most of the engagement ring made with the diamonds to this day is about 80%. 10 years ago it was over 90%. Diamonds symbolize eternal love, strength, purity, because it's the hardest gemstone out there. It was very popularized by De Beers in 30s and 40s. Diamonds forever, that's what they said. And if you're looking for the timeless and relatively simple engagement ring, the diamond is one of the best options out there. What are the different shapes of the diamonds available out there? There's lots of different shapes. There is also the old cuts, there's a custom cuts, and if you're willing to make the custom cut, you're not really limited with anything else. But the most popular shapes are rounds, princess, oval, emerald, cushion, pear, marquee, radiant, and usher. Also, there is a baguettes, there is the kite shapes, there is the trillion cuts, there's many other cuts out there, so you're not really limited with anything else. Very importantly, when you're looking for the specific shape of the diamond, don't forget about the cut. Without the right cut, your diamond not going to spark right, and you should know the difference between the cut and the shape. What are fancy colored diamonds? Well, typically we know that the diamonds are transparent, and that's what we want most of the time, but there is a variety of different colors out there, and we call them fancy colored diamonds when the diamond has the very distinguished color in it. Usually it's a yellow or pink, but there's a blue, there's a green diamonds out there, there's even red diamonds out there. Most of the time extremely expensive, but they are available. We also have the variety of lab created diamonds. Those can be colored on a much lower budget out there. What are the differences between natural and lab diamonds? I have the half-an-hour video explaining all of the difference between the two. Natural diamonds are mined out there in the nature, in the mines. They were made by pressure of the earth and the temperature of the earth for billions of years. And the lab diamonds made in the lab, usually with the two types of technologies, the HPHT, which stands for high pressure, high temperature, and the CVD, which stands for chemical vapor depositions. Very important thing to know, both diamonds are identical. They visually identical, they represent the absolutely identical chemical and physical properties out there, and optical properties are absolutely the same. Lab diamonds significantly cheaper than the natural diamonds, and the difference is just getting bigger and bigger. What should I know about diamond grading, the 4 C's? You should know a lot of things about it. 4 C's stands for carat, cut, color, and the clarity. You should know that the carat refers to the weight. So the cut would be very important over here, because you can have like a shallow cut, you can have the long cut, and the carat would represent the weight, not the size of the diamond, which is more important in case of the engagement ring, especially that you want to have a nice size of the gallery of the diamond. The cut represents the actual quality of the cut, and the cut is responsible for the sparks. You should know that too. It's not about the clarity of the stone, it's not about the inclusion over here, it's about the cut. The sparks equal the cut, if you will. The third C is the color. You should know the color of your diamond, whether it's completely white, it's a D color, or it has slightly yellowishness into this. Let's say it's a F color or something like that. So you know what you're paying for. And the clarity is the simply amount of inclusion into the stone. And you also want to know where are those inclusions. How do I choose the right diamond for my engagement ring? Well, first of all, you want to learn a lot of things. You want to learn your 4 C's. You want to know that the carat does not refer to the size of the diamond. It refers to the weight. And the same weight can mean the different size of the gallery itself when you're looking at the stone from the top. Cut basically equal the amount of sparks you're going to get from your diamond, because if mathematically the cut is right, it's gonna give you lots of spark. Sparks does not depend on the color or on the clarity. It's predominantly depend on the cut itself. Color obviously refers to the color itself, and the clarity refers to the amount of the inclusion. What are alternative gemstones for your engagement ring? Or in other words, what is the alternative engagement rings? That's the phrase that you would hear all the time out there. Basically, that's the engagement ring that you use for the center stone, anything but the diamond. Usually it's a color stone. So what are you gonna have over here? You're gonna have the sapphires in any color: green, blue, yellow, pink, red, anything. Well, red sapphire I'm going to call the ruby. You also have the rubies out there as well. You have emeralds that go from the dark green to the light green. You're gonna have your aquamarines, typically very light blue stones. You're gonna have your morganites, either pink or salmon colors. You're gonna have your amethyst in a variety of beautiful colors too. The thing to remember, you need to do a little research on each and every stone about the properties, about the durabilities, and so forth, and making sure that they fit your design. What is the moissanite and how does it compare to the diamond? Moissanite is the lab-grown gemstone. It has nothing to do with lab diamond. They have completely different chemical properties. The moissanite is the silicon carbide, basically. It's going to spark even more than the diamond. Refractive index is higher than of the diamond, but it's going to give you slightly colorful sparks out there. So you're gonna have a little bit of rainbows on top of the moissanite. It's widely used for the alternative engagement ring. It actually looks very beautiful, and most likely not trained eyes would not see the actual difference between the diamond and the moissanite. It does really look very good, and it's extremely affordable, so it's always a great choice for the engagement ring. What is the symbolism of different gemstones in the engagement ring? Usually symbolism attached to the certain historical events. For example, one of my favorite stories is how the pirates of Caribbean were carrying aquamarines with them because they believe that it's make the ocean calmer, for example. But the other gemstones symbolize things too. For example, diamonds, because they are so durable, the most durable gemstone out there, they symbolize the eternal love and strength. Sapphires naturally through the years represent the loyalty and wisdom. That's why it's the most commonly used stone out there in the royal jewelry. If you're gonna look at the royal jewelry, whether it's England or India or anything else, you will see that the sapphire is used a lot. Rubies, very bright red passion color. It symbolizes the love, courage, passion, and so forth. Emeralds symbolize rebirth, growth, harmony. It's color of the nature. Amethyst historically symbolized the protection and the peace, and so forth and so on. Every gemstone symbolized a different thing. Metals and settings. What types of metals are used in engagement ring? Typically either gold or platinum, nothing else. Gold you can separate into the two categories, 14 karat golds and the 18 karat golds. Anything that is lower, you don't want to use it because there is less than 58% of the actual gold, so less than half. And everything that higher than 18 carats is just not going to be durable. Gold itself is a very soft metal. Also, you can separate the gold by the colors: yellow, white, and platinum. Yellow gold would have different colors, depends on the purity. Same for the rose gold, it will slightly vary in the shade, although there's 100 shades of the rose gold known out there. And the white gold can have the different alloys as well. But typically white gold covered with the rhodium plating, same as the platinum. So that's why you don't see the difference between the white gold and the platinum, because there is none you're looking at the rhodium plating. What are the pros and cons of platinum and gold? Most likely people comparing the white gold and the platinum itself. Platinum is going to be twice heavier than the gold, and because of that reason it's going to be more expensive. Also, it's much harder to work with the platinum. The melting temperature is much higher, that's why it's going to be more expensive as well. Platinum most likely going to last longer because of the density of the platinum is higher. In terms of the look itself, they're going to be identical because of the rhodium plating that goes on top of the platinum and the white gold. So at the beginning, when it's new, it's going to look exactly the same. When the rhodium going to start fading away little by little, then you will start seeing the actual metal. And in the case of the white gold, it's going to be slightly yellowish grayish metal, and it's going to be visible better. And in case of the platinum, it's just going to be a silver metal. What is the white gold and how it differs from the yellow gold? Well, we all know that the gold in nature is yellow, so how do we get the yellow gold? We take 58% of the yellow gold and we mix it with the white metals. It's usually palladium, nickel, or silver, depending on the brand. And on top of that, we also rhodium plating it to give it a very beautiful shine look. In case of the yellow gold, we're going to have the same 58% of the actual gold, but we're going to mix it with the yellowish metal as the zinc or copper. And in that case, we're just going to have the different shade of the yellow gold. We can have the lemon gold, we can have the actual yellow gold, or sometimes we can go even to the slightly pinkish gold. So in both of the cases, you're going to have about half of the ring actually made out of the gold, and the rest of the ring is going to be made out of the alloys like that. What is the rose gold and why it's so popular? Well, the rose gold is actually got created just recently by the jewelry standards about 100 years ago. It wasn't known before that. It is, in fact, became much more popular these days because it has this beautiful romantic look, and it's also unique. Not that many people has it, and you always want to stand out with your jewelry. The rose gold is essentially a mix of the actual gold with a lot of copper that would give it this beautiful rose tone. There is over 100 rose gold tones out there, and lots of brands has their own rose gold tones. For example, the Rolex is very famous for their specific tone of the rose gold. What is the difference between 14 karat gold and the 18 karat gold? The only difference is the amount of actual gold in those alloy. No matter if we're talking about the white gold or yellow gold or the rose gold, the only difference is the amount of actual gold. In the 14 karat gold, you're going to have 58% of the actual gold. In the 18 karat, you're going to have 75% of the actual gold. What are the different types of setting in the engagement ring? What is the setting, first of all? Setting is something that holds your center stone in place, or the side stone. What options do we have out there? We have the prong setting, we have bezel, we have a pave, we have Chanel, and we have the tension settings and a few others as well, but that's the most popular one. What is the prong setting? In case of the prong setting, you're going to have the cloth that is going to hold your stone. They can be different shapes. For example, some of them can be airy, like pointy one, the other one can be square or round, and they can be also a different size. But make sure they are not too small in order to hold your stone secure. What is the benefits of the claw prongs? They're going to allow as much light as possible into the stone itself, and also it's a very classic and timeless look. Lots of rings made with the claw prongs. What is the bezel setting? In case of the bezel setting, your stone going to be simply held with the strip of metal all around the stone most of the time, sometimes halfway from one side, halfway from the other side. It's a very popular way of setting the stone when we're making Art Deco style engagement rings. This is the most secure way of holding your stone in the engagement ring. It's just protected from all of the sides with the metal. What is the pave setting? Pave setting is usually used for the side stones on the band itself. That's when you have lots of small stones set with the tiny prongs around them, what gives you this continuous sparkly effect. So you see as little metal as possible. Again, it's very classy, it's very timeless, and it's very popular too. What is the Chanel setting? In case of the Chanel setting, you have two metal strips that goes parallel to each other, and you have lots of the stones that goes between those metal strips. Usually Chanel setting goes along with princess cuts. What it gives you this floaty, timeless look, and it's very sophisticated look. I would personally prefer it over pave setting when we're talking about the square stones, of course, not about the round stones. It just looks very good in case if you making the Art Deco engagement ring. What is the tension setting? In case of the tension setting, you're going to have this gap between the metal itself, and you're going to use this tension between the sides of the band to hold your center stone. You're also going to have a little channels on both sides in order to secure your stone. But basically, there is going to be nothing else. There is going to be a band, and there is going to be the center stone that hold by the tension of this band. And it gives as much light as possible to the center stone. Can I customize my engagement ring? Not only you can, you should customize your engagement ring. The goal is over here to make one of the kind specifically related to you engagement ring that is going to tell your life story specifically, not someone else's. The goal is not to pick up the engagement ring from the shelf. The goal is to create your own. You can do lots of different things. You can change the metals, you can choose the very special gemstones, you can choose the different cuts, you can do the custom cut, you can add the engraving. You can base your design on something else. You can get the inspiration from the other jewelry, or you can get the inspiration from other objects as well. You can make completely custom design. The options are endless over there. How do I go about designing a custom engagement ring? First of all, we started with a consultation. We're trying to figure out what you actually want. Lots of the time, people don't really know what they want specifically. So we're going through your inspiration, we're going through the things you like and you don't like. We're looking at the rings that got inspired you, and we're talking throughout your love story. We're trying to find the inspiration over there as well. And of course, we're talking about the budget overall. After that, we go into the design phase. We're just quickly sketching things, we're showing to you, we see how do you react on it, with changing things if needed. We're also making the 3D design. After that, we're choosing the gemstone and the metal based on the previous work that we've done. After that, we go into the phase of the approval. We just finally approving everything. That's the last chance to change things. And then there is the final stage of creating the engagement ring completely. Can I include personal elements or heirlooms in my engagement ring? You absolutely can, and I think you should. For example, we can use the existing jewelry that belongs to your family, and we can use it to make your engagement ring, or we can use the gemstones that are already in your family, or we can use many other things. The options are endless over here. What are the options for engraving on engagement ring? The options limited only by the size of your engagement ring. You can engrave as much as you possibly can. With today's technologies, we can make an engraving so small that you're not actually going to see it, so there is no really a point in it of that size. So you want to choose something nice and sweet and something that you can actually see on your engagement ring. And I would also recommend to add some sort of elements on top of the actual ring, not necessarily engraving too. How can I add a personal touch to my engagement ring? Options are endless over here. You can choose the very special metal for your engagement ring. For example, you like spending time on the beach, so you can choose the lemon gold instead of regular yellow gold. You can add the very special gemstone, let's say the birthstone of your special person. You can add certain amount of element on your engagement ring that will represent the amount of year that you've been together. You can add the engravings over there as well. So many options that you can do. How do I determine my partner's ring size without asking them? Usually the best way is the most expensive way, and let's get rid of all of the crazy ideas like measuring their size while they're sleeping and everything like that. Best way is to make them a gift on the anniversary, on a special occasion. Just buy them nice ring, and before you're going to buy it, you want to ask for the size of the ring, explaining actually what you're about to do. What if the engagement ring doesn't fit? It's not the end of the world. The engagement ring can be always resized unless you missed by a lot. Let's say you missed by 4 sizes up or down. In this case, it's going to be much harder. And if the design is very complicated, the engagement ring might be redone. But trust me, it's very hard to do. Just simply by holding someone else's finger and holding later the sizer, you can kind of figure out what approximately size of the finger they have. So if you're going to miss, you're probably going to miss by the size, maybe by 2 at max, and this is something that we can fix later. But sometimes we're making such a complicated engagement rings that I'm telling to my client right away that if we're going to miss the size, it's going to cost a couple of $100s just to resize this ring because how complicated it is. It's always possible. There is never a case when it's not possible, but it's just going to take some time to repeat the pattern of the engagement ring. Can engagement ring be resized? Yes, usually very simply. 80% of the engagement rings can be resized in like under an hour, and we would do it for free for our clients. But sometimes you're gonna have a very complicated design with very complicated patterns, and it's going to take time to replicate them. In this case, we always tell to those clients that, look, your engagement ring is actually very complicated, and it's going to take a couple of $100s and a couple of days to repeat the pattern that we have right now. So let's just find out this ring size properly. Or in case of the tension settings, you will have to reset the stone altogether. How should an engagement ring fit? Very simply, not too tight, not too loose, so you're not gonna lose it. Also keep in mind that the size of your ring is going to change depending on the weather, depending on the humidity and things like that. So it will vary slightly here and there, but it just should feel comfortable. The best way is actually to buy the metal sizers from the Amazon and just put them on your finger and walk around with this specific size for a couple of hours or so and just figure out whether it's fitting you or not. This is it for the first part of the FAQ video. We just went through 50 questions together. I hope this information was very valuable. Make sure you're gonna check the second part, which I'm gonna link right over here, and let me know if you have any other questions for me. I'll make sure I'm gonna answer them as well. Thank you so much for watching.